been a troublemaker, I've been a late-night player, I've been broke as a joke, I've been a money maker, I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator, I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky thing, popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip-hop, it's like it stings. We make a whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk, we gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my Jaeger just.
Hello. Welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this last day of November 30th. We've been off again recently, the holiday. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope everybody enjoyed their turkey feasts, but we are back. And really miraculously, for once, we are... And there is medical miracles involved with this one. Everyone's in their proper seats. My right-hand man, Mr. Bob Rao Jr., we are happy to say, for more reasons than one, is sitting where he belongs behind the camera and able to talk to me.
Yeah, which is very rare, but...
Yes, and there you see, we are, in fact, I should mention, the award-winning Sports Buzz. I have the award right here, as you see it on the picture. My crew was accepting on my behalf last night. We got an award for third most live shows on the station this year. Number 3, yes. Not number 1, but number 3. We'll take it. And the party was last night. I did miss it, but Bob, and there we see Mike Toohey, who is in his director's chair, and Jenna, and of course Dave and Candy, running the festivities as they run everything down here at the station. But Bob, how are you doing?
I'm feeling better after having my little onset.
Yeah, a little bit. Scary moment for Bob the other night. I think he's okay with me mentioning it.
Go ahead. It's
minor heart attack. We'll emphasize the word minor, hopefully.
Yes, it was a mild heart attack, thank God.
Yeah, and so that had to be a little bit scary, though, Bob.
Yes, it was, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That is really the amazing thing to me, that you woke up with the effects of a heart attack coming on and knew something was wrong, yeah, and promptly made the proper phone calls.
Yes, and I have to thank the guys from the Danbury Fire Department.
Mm-hmm.
My brothers, they were there on the spot.
I'm sure they get to everybody quickly, whether they know them or not. I'm sure they got to you as fast as possible.
They did.
And got you to where you needed to be and make sure that you were okay. So 2 nights in the hospital? Or?
2 nights in the hospital.
And got to do some follow-ups, but you were released and back to work and came here to the party last night, and here you are at the show.
Yes.
Looking no worse for the wear, so we are very happy to hear that. Bob, I mean, seriously though, lay off the turkey. Maybe too much stuffing this weekend. Hold off on the leftovers.
No, actually,
don't pile the cranberry sauce too high next time.
No, it was just an on-set thing that just happened.
Right.
I haven't had something like that happen in about 15 years, so it's.
Well, let's hope you go another 15 at least before you have anything like that happen again. We need to go even more than that.
I know, it's just something, you don't never know when it's going to happen,
Yeah, no, I know. I definitely know. It can happen. Things can happen to anybody at any time. You never know when it's going to pop up, so you have to count your blessings on a daily basis and remember that we're all here and we don't know how long it'll be.
No.
So you got to take advantage of your time. Bob's show, of course, Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. We saw Jenna in the photo. Connor was very excited to be with you tonight, coming into the studio, gave me a big hug, and gave me the award. So we will say that Connor is here in studio as well. And there we saw Mike Toohey, his show, Expose Cinema, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. We just actually taped his show before our show. It'll air tomorrow night as he's trying to get himself back into the swing of things, doing his regular show again, as he's had a tough schedule this year. We are live if you want to call for any reason. There was a strange man showing last night, I heard.
Yes,
at the
there
park.
was. There was two strange men, actually.
His brother? I don't know. One strange man is enough.
I know. It's.
But there's the number, 203-792-4101. If you want to call, talk sports, you want to call and say we're happy that you're doing okay, Bob, whatever you want to do, make a phone call. We're here until 7. Maybe it was the stress over your New York football Giants, Bob.
Maybe it could have been, because especially with the Eli
the benching
of 210 straight games,
longest active streak. I mean, he probably has started every game, I would imagine, since he took over for Kurt Warner, correct? Right. Which was, how many years ago was that, 2005?
13 years.
13 years. So 13 straight years, 210 straight games.
Right.
The season obviously has gone very far south and not the way they wanted at 2-9. But, I mean, the offense suffered major injuries in the wide receiver spot, so he hasn't had anybody to throw to.
Right.
Jerry Reese, the general manager, did a horrific job putting together a running game. He didn't put together a running game at all. But, and they've got this coach who we see right there, Bob McAdoo,
who I think, my personal opinion, from a Giants fan standpoint, should be fired.
Yeah, he should have been fired, after about week 6. He's managed to make it to week 13. And why does he get to bench Eli Manning for, this week or the remainder of the season?
Right.
When most people think he will be fired and Jerry Reese will be fired.
I hear a phone call ringing. We got a phone call.
We do? All right, I'll just answer it right out here, and hopefully it's somebody that wants to talk. Hello, this is Sports Buzz. You are on the air.
Sports Buzz, how are you doing, Scotty?
Strange man, nice to hear from you. It's been too long. How you doing?
Hanging in there. I made the open house last night. I came down there with Strange Brother.
Strange man has disappeared from the earth for the last 6 months, but there was free food and beverage, and all of a sudden he resurfaces. We see how it is, Strange man.
Yeah, I videotaped it. Hey, look, I just want to say, I don't have a lot of time, but I want to say congratulations on your award.
Thank you very much.
It takes a lot of people to put together a show. You got Bob Bright, you got, the other people involved. You got a director. You got Geno. You got Connor, and of course, Candy and Dave.
Yeah.
And it's basically a volunteer organization. The only people that get paid are the
That's true.
People, Candy and Dave. And so it takes a lot to do a show down there. And community access is a great way.
This was our first.
In on the floor level and into what you guys do and what we do, and of course, can't forget the guests that call in.
Yes.
And so again, I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you. I was very pleased.
It was a great night last night. I tell you, Candy and Dave, really put together a good open house last night. It was a great get together.
That's great. I was very pleased. We had never won an award. We were honored for last year, I believe, for our 5th year on the air. But this was an actual award for achievement during this calendar year, so I was pretty pleased with that. So that was great that we got it, and I'm glad that you were here, and Bob and Mike were here, and Jenna to accept the award on my behalf. So that was great.
Yeah, I was talking to Director Mike, and
let's not forget Mike McFadden, who might show up tonight.
Kevin Gallagher, that big Chiefs fan, he won a big award at the end. I put down my video camera, but hats off to Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin, former director here.
I want to congratulate you again on the award, and I'll let you have the last say before I sign off.
All right, well, thank you very much. Yeah, Kevin needs an award because his Chiefs certainly are not doing him any pleasure right now with the way they're falling apart. We're just talking about the Giants, who can't beat anybody, who can't score more than 12 points, but they could beat the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. Unbelievable how the Chiefs have fallen and they cannot get up. Any strange stat, Bob is asking before you go there, strange man, or are you just calling with the award statistic?
Yeah, that's about it. And again, I just want to say congratulations.
All right, well, thank you. Happy holidays to you.
Strange man over and out. Take care.
Take care. Thank you for calling. Strange man just wanted to give the love and give the congratulations. Couldn't really get him beyond any of the sporting topics.
I got 2 last night too.
Oh, you did? What did you get for it?
I got second place for my use of the facility.
Okay.
And 3rd place for remote.
Ah, yes, you do rent out the equipment quite a bit. So, all right. Bob was recognized as well. Tui probably didn't get anything this year. He used to be the one who stole all the awards.
Did you get anything? No.
No. Well, of course not. He's barely been around this year. What could he win? Absentee?
Absentee ballot.
All right. So you think Macadont should be fired?
Yes.
I think he probably should have been fired too.
He should have been fired after week 6, is like we said.
And I mean, the fault of the team. I'm not the biggest Eli supporter. I think he's a little bit overrated. I will point out that in his 13 seasons, he's made it to the playoffs only 4 times. That's a lot of losing seasons, though. You've got the 2 amazing Super Bowl runs that carry him, of course. But the 2 other times he made it to the playoffs, they were one and done.
But my feeling is they should have let him just finish out the year.
Let him finish it out this year and then make a decision in the offseason. Nothing's happening. It's not like they have a tremendous player in the waiting that they need to take a look at. They're going with it's Geno time.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
Geno Smith, who we saw.
Jets.
And there you go, Bob. I've got this nice shot. Maybe are they going to break out this video that the Boston Celtics do when they get blowouts?
Oh, the Geno
dancing,
video?
70s disco dude.
Oh.
It's Geno time in the Meadowlands with Geno Smith. I mean, and then they're going to go to who's the kid that's the 3rd string.
I don't even know.
Nobody even knows. It's not like he's going to be a guy that they're going to see going forward. So it's not like they have somebody waiting.
They'll play Geno in the first 3 quarters, and they'll bring the kid in the
All right,
fourth.
well, what do you think about this? It was originally supposedly presented to Eli that he would start. But if the game was going the way they have been going, they were going to take a look at these other guys, and he would come out at halftime, and he didn't want any part of that. What do you think about Eli's stance that way?
I got a feeling that's what probably did happen. I'm sure that it was.
I mean, should Eli have been a stand-up guy and say, okay?
Yeah, but I mean, he was really very emotional at the press conference the other night. So he did finally show emotions. Usually, he's the all shucks guy with no emotion. So my question is, will you see him in a Giants uniform next year?
I doubt it. I mean, most people were saying they wouldn't. This is the thing that I don't understand. We talk about this a lot in baseball.
Right.
Like with your Mets, per se. I was saying, don't make this fire sale and trade away your whole team. You made the playoffs 2 years in a row. You went to the World Series. This year you got besieged by injuries, but you still theoretically have a team that you think going forward is a good team. So why, because you're having one bad season, you blow the whole thing up? The same thing could be said for the Giants. They were supposed to be a contender this year. They were hit with injuries right away. The defense did not play up to their ability according to what they did last year. And I think a lot of that had to do with the coach losing the locker room, which is another reason why he should be fired. But why blow the whole thing up? I mean, you could easily just say, all right, things didn't go well. We had big, huge injuries.
We're having a 2-9 record as of right now. So why don't we just go ahead and let everybody play out the season?
Yeah.
And
fire the coach.
Yeah.
Don't bench the quarterback who's won you 2 Super Bowls and has been a stand-up guy.
I hear another one of our members here.
Oh, is the McManiac.
Hi there, Mike. Mike, why don't you come on out here? We have to listen to.
Well, we don't have a microphone set up for him.
You can
share.
We'll share.
All right. Anyways, so they're going to take this show on the road to Oakland, a team that's also struggling this year.
Come on, pull up a chair.
And it's going to be a little bit tough out there. But the Raiders have their own set of problems this week with the suspension of their star receiver, and with their other top receiver being injured and everything else going on with them. Another thing to mention in the sporting news, as we're still looking, as we see some of those Patriots versus the Raiders pictures, but just off topic with the NFL, just I want to mention quickly what is going on in Yankee land with this coaching carousel situation.
Today they interviewed Beltran, who just retired.
I mean, he was just playing with the Astros.
I know.
And all of a sudden he's in.
What do we think he's going to do? I mean, half the time he could.
Maybe he could be a player manager.
I don't know.
I don't understand what the Yankees are doing. You would think if they fired a guy with Girardi's pedigree, they would have had somebody in the waiting, legitimate, candidate to be hired. And they're interviewing Aaron Boone, Carlos Beltran, and other guys you have no real interest in at all.
I mean, my personal view is...
Did they interview Paul O'Neill?
Huh?
Or was it David Cohn that they interviewed?
David Cohn.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have no managerial experience.
Right, I mean, Willie Randolph would be a perfect one.
That was an interesting call you made on the phone to me today when we were talking.
Because he would be because he's been a bench coach.
He was a Yankee.
He was a Brewers coach for a couple years. You know, he was in the Mets organization.
Yeah, he got wronged by the Mets, I thought.
You know, so
that was interesting. But let's get back to the NFL because
I was gonna say let Mike answer on that question too.
Well, what did you think? I mean, what did you think of Bob's take on that? Possibly out of nowhere hiring.
I was 100% correct about that. Willie Randolph had a really good. Well, I shouldn't say really, but he had a above 500 winning percentage with the Mets.
Yeah.
He's a Yankee through and through, as everybody knows. Why wouldn't you at least bring him in for an interview? I mean, that to me is really strange.
Yeah, I don't know why Willie Randolph hasn't had a chance since he left the Mets. I mean, I thought he did a good job there. Pedro Martinez got hurt, and they kind of went down in that last year he was there. But again, it's like these teams overreact so often to things instead of saying, all right, this one thing didn't go right, we had a little injury, this, that, whatever, and just kind of go with it. So I always thought he deserved another chance, and I hadn't thought of him as an option for the Yankees, but I don't think they would go that direction. But it is interesting to bring that up. All right, back to the NFL. Because it is getting late in the season. Game tonight, which, I mean, I guess these two teams, one of them will win unless there's a tie, which would give the Eagles the division, as a matter of fact. But they're both 5-6. Redskins at Cowboys. Cowboys embarrassed on Thanksgiving Day against the Chargers, 28-6. They lost to the Eagles the week before that, 37-9. Eagles at 10-1, running away with obviously your division, but also have the best record in the NFL right now. 9-game winning streak there at the Seahawks this weekend, who are 7-4, and the Seahawks have a bunch of injuries as well.
Right.
And they're trying to keep themselves alive. The NFC has a lot more going on, although the AFC has a decent amount going on. It's just poor play.
Right.
So, but the Seahawks at 7-4. You got the Vikings at 9-2, winners of 7 straight. They had that big win against the Rams in a good game 2 weeks ago, and then they beat the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. Lions trying to hang around at 6-5. You got the Saints at 8-3, Panthers at 8-3, tied atop their division with the Falcons right behind them at 7-4, tied with the Seahawks for a wild card. The Saints lost at the Rams 26-20. Panthers beat the Jets. That was a tough game there, Mike. 35-27.
Get on that one.
I mean, I couldn't believe that they overturned that touchdown. I changed the channel back to the Patriots. I thought sure that was going to count as a touchdown. Instead, they had to settle for that field goal. A few weeks back, I thought there was much ado about nothing with that controversial call with Jenkins there, the tight end in the Patriots game. But this was legitimate beef you should have at that touchdown overturn, which changed the game entirely. And then you get the strip sack fumble and then the punt return. What were you thinking during that game there, Mike?
I think at the end of the season, the referees,
bad.
NFL management, everything needs to get together and figure out what is considered a catch.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
That was unbelievable. I could not believe they overturned that. I didn't even stick around to wait for the decision. I was like, I'm going to go to the Patriot game. Because I thought, sure, I was going to come back and that would have counted as a touchdown. Yep. I came back and it was not. And then the turnovers and the punt return was brutal. And then they even rallied, but then your defense and the penalties, Mike, the lack of discipline, the 4th and 2 offsides earlier in the game was unbelievable that they would do that. And then the roughing the passer, oh my God. They're off the field with a chance still, even after that strip sack touchdown and the punt return. They didn't stop playing offensively. They got the touchdown back within range. If they get off the field there, they could still tie the game. Or were they only down 6, I think?
But who's responsible for that, Scott?
Coaching. When there's a consistent season-long amount of penalties, it goes to the coaching.
Absolutely.
And I still am behind Bowles as a coach, but things like that, you really have to question why the discipline isn't there, because it's not like this was, a penalty here, a penalty there. This is a season-long thing that's been going on with the Jets.
Absolutely.
And the Falcons, we mentioned at 7-4, they beat the Bucs 34-20. They're home against the Vikings in a good game this weekend, and the Saints are home against Carolina. So those are a couple good games this weekend in the NFC. The Rams are at the Cardinals. Cardinals are a sneaky, tough team. Talking about coaching, Cardinals are a team that's been besieged by injuries, yet they coach themselves well, and they stick around in all these games. They had a nice win against the Jaguars. In the AFC, Patriots 9-2, winners of 7 straight. They beat the Dolphins, and which was an interesting game. They are at the Bills, who got off the mat. That was crazy what was going on with them and their coaching and the benching of their starting quarterback. For this kid who had no experience, he throws 5 interceptions. But they did bounce back. Again, we go to KC. What has happened to Kansas City as they went to Kansas City and beat them? So I expect the Bills to actually play a tough game this weekend at home against the Patriots. And I think that'll be a good one. Steelers at 9-2. Very chatty. What did you think of Mike Tomlin and all the talk he had about looking forward 3 weeks away from the Patriots matchup, and then saying it's only going to be part 1 of part 2, insinuating that they will see each other in the AFC Championship game. They will both have to get through their bye and an opening round playoff game, and to that game before that even happens. What do you think of Mike Tomlin and his chatty ways with the Steelers?
I think he needs to keep his mouth shut.
I say it's typical Steelers. I mean, they always do this. It's unreal that the head coach would do that. In an interview with the NBC, which would go national, this wasn't just him talking locally to like a beat reporter from the Steelers. This was an NBC national interview. What do you think about that sort of talk there, Mike?
It is funny because if you're going to do that talking, at least, have beaten the team maybe a couple of times in big games in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We all know the Patriots have had the Steelers' numbers.
Yes, they have.
So what I think Tomlin should do is, like was mentioned before previously, keep your mouth shut, get your team prepared and ready to play, go beat them.
Didn't he give his players a hard time last year when they released that Facebook Live video after their playoff performance, saying they were going to beat the Patriots and all this stuff? I mean, if it, like we just talked about with the penalties, if it comes from the head, it comes from the head.
Exactly.
Steelers are at Bengals. This is what's going on in the AFC that's interesting. You've got teams like the Bengals and the Chargers at 5-6. I think the Chargers are the more dangerous team, although the Bengals, with their schedule, are just two teams that are sticking around in this messy AFC. The Titans and Jags tied at 7-4. One of those teams will look like the top playoff team, but the Ravens, unbelievable, who seem to be like one of the worst football teams out there, somehow are 6-5, doing it strictly with defense and a field goal kicker. I mean, unreal that they're 6-5. But you have the Bengals and Chargers right behind them. Chargers are home against the Browns, so you have to figure they will be 6-6. Ravens are home against the Lions, who are a tough team. The Raiders are right behind them also, or with them at 5-6, but they've got these injuries and suspensions, so I don't know about the Raiders. I would think the Bengals and the Chargers are the two teams to keep your eye on. Sticking with football, college football this weekend, huge weekend. Clemson, ACC Championship, Saturday night versus Miami. Auburn, SEC Championship, 4 o'clock Saturday versus Georgia, who they thumped 40-17. and they came off the win last weekend, 26-14 against Bama, knocking Bama out of the top 4. Oklahoma, Big 12 championship versus TCU Saturday at 12:30. Wisconsin, undefeated, Big 10 championship Saturday night as well versus Ohio State. Those Clemson, Auburn, Oklahoma, Wisconsin are the number 1 through 4 teams. But what about number 14 out of the AAC, UCF, who beat USF 49-42 this weekend, who was also undefeated? They are undefeated at 11-0, 8-0 in conference, playing 10-1 Memphis, who is also a ranked team. Why is it, with all these other teams losing, there's two lost teams all up and down the board, why can't you slide UCF into a position where, because if Auburn wins, they're going to get in with 2 losses. If Wisconsin loses, you're going to look at Ohio State possibly with 2 losses getting in, or something like that. Or if Miami beats Clemson, they'll have 2 losses, they could get in. Bama will probably end up in somehow, even though they just lost. But why can't undefeated teams get in? This is why I have not watched much college football this year.
What about your Colorado State?
They are bowl eligible. They had a little lull in the middle of the season. They were doing great for a while, but they did hit a rough patch. But they will be in a bowl game. I think they're 7-4. So they had a decent season, but they did have 3 tough weeks in a row late in the season. We'll stick with college basketball real quick. I just want to mention UConn is 5-2. They had a kind of a crazy week. They won last night, a nutty game in overtime against 1-5 Columbia. They should have won that game at home easily. They went to Portland in that PK80 tournament. They beat Oregon at a home game, which was a great game to start that tournament, 71-63. And then in the second half, they were really shut down against Michigan State. Then they were thumped against Arkansas. I did want to stick also locally. College basketball women's, not the UConn women, but the Lady Colonials, Bob. Did you see?
Yes, I did.
Not only 3-0, but averaging, I think, 112 points per game in their first 3 games. They've got this run and gun up tempo. So that's something to keep our eye on. And I did want to mention locally, Joe Barlow, not a team usually out of the conference here, which I'm drawing a blank on, but they usually not a state playoff team for football, but they are playing a home game in the semifinals of the Class M state championships this weekend against a team that pulled an upset. So they are a 6 seed going against a 7, which means they could possibly make it to the state semifinal game or the state championship game, which would be great for Barlow. Their QB ran for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns in their quarterfinal win this past weekend, giving them a home game against SMSA University Classical. It's a co-op team which pulled an upset. So that's interesting as well. We only got a couple minutes or less. I'll mention the Celtics have the best records in the NBA. They did win 16 straight, which was amazing after that injury. To start it off, they are 18-4. They lost to Detroit the other night. In the NHL, Islanders, Devils, the tops locally. Rangers outside looking in, but creeping up on everybody at 7-3-0. Bruins are in a playoff spot in 3rd place in the Atlantic, winning 4 out of their last 5. All right, it's good to see everybody back after the holidays, especially Bob after his health scare this past week.
Yes.
And I know a couple other people who are fans of the show and family who have had some health things this past week. We wish them well. Also, happy health to everybody. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.